Welcome back to episode 15? Yeah, episode 15 of Notorious Pro Wrestling, where we find out what would happen if Conor McGregor started his own wrestling promotion. So the last time you guys were here, we had finally got our last two competitors for the Notorious Pro Wrestling Women's Championship Tournament. Yep, that's all the words in the right order. The bracket is done, the bracket is finalised, and it looks a little bit like this. So we have our 16 women, and the matchups, the initial matchups are Riho versus Debbie Kettle, something. Killer Kelly versus Maki Ito. Tessa Blanchard versus Asuka, not that one, the one from Wave. Viper versus Nicole Matthews. Amy Alonzi versus Kaylee Ray. Zia Brookside. And thank you to the Reddit user that showed me that I had misspelled in the first draft of this bracket. I had misspelled her name. Thanks for that. That was another hour's work to get that fixed. Versus Alpha Female. Maiko Satomura versus Bobby Tyler. Tennille Dashwood versus Rachel Ellering. So this will start this week, and this wanted. We're going to have our first match, maybe two, depending on how timing goes, and it'll be a good time. And yeah, so that'll run then until. I would like to. So I'm thinking maybe not the next pay-per-view, but the pay-per-view afterwards. We could be looking at the final if we have at least a match a week. But that's the plan so far. Again, I'm not sure who I'm going to have win it. I had a revelation the other day about who was going to win it, so I don't want to say who, obviously, because I would like that to be somewhat of a surprise. But I'm still not 100% set on who I want to win or be our first women's champion. Moving on to news from around the world then. There's been a couple of weird retirements which have just kind of popped up in literally as I've gone to Thursday here. So Amy Dumas, Lita, is retiring. Cheerleader Melissa is retiring, which is weird. She's, as far as I know, still going strong in this indie scene at the minute. And Angelina Love too. Another retirement as well. And I believe there was one more. Yeah, Mike Sedal, who in real life is going strong in AEW in a tag team with his brother Matt, aka Evan Bourne. So, a couple of a couple of surprising retirements there. Would Lita be worth getting in as a agent? No, her psychology is not very good. So that is it for our catch up and for the news. So let's get into booking the show. Okay, and we are back, coming at you live from the Ringside Club in Ireland. It is time for Wanted. I always go to call it Dynamite, and I do not know why. This is not AEW, Hans. This is Notorious. So, as you can see, we have a good couple of angles and a good couple of matches. Everything gets advanced this week. I did have to try and sneak in the Cyborg Wolves and Rich Swann versus the Filthy Generation. I had to do it in the pre-show because I was kind of stuck for time, and I didn't want to start the women's tournament on the pre-show because that feels demeaning. But here we go. So on the pre-show then, we had the Filthy Generation defeat the NIC in 15-21 in a 40 rated match. So this is just to get the Filthy Generation a bit of momentum back. They had obviously lost at the pay-per-view, and Aspen Faith lost last week to Rich Swann. So this is just to get their momentum back on track. Aspen Faith had a 42, Lewis Gervin a 43, Charlie Carter 41, and Oisin Delaney 41. So overall, pretty solid. They maybe slightly underperformed, but I reckon that's just down to the shortness of the match. So after the match, then Stevie Boy gets on the mic and goes off on Rich Swann. He's like, how dare you come over from America, come to our country and, try and make a statement with us. Filthy Generation run NPW. So next then, Doug Williams comes out and apologizes to the fans. He says maybe he's too old to continue doing this. He's been around for a long time. This part of the promo is to set up the fact later down the line he will have a title versus career match against Chris Hero. But before he kind of gets to that point where he's going to retire, Eastern Reese comes out and it's just like, hold on, you don't get off that easy. It's one apiece. I beat you, you beat me. We need a rubber match. Doug Williams is like, right, okay, you can have your match. They shake on it. Then before they break the handshake, Eastern Reese pulls him in, hits him with like a power slam. I don't know what Eastern Reese finisher is. We'll say a power slam. And just starts beating the shite out of Doug Williams until the Grizzled Young Vets. I see where we set up that relationship last week. All it takes is one angle, guys. Take note, WWE. For the Grizzled Young Vets then to come out and make the save. So this sets up Doug Williams versus Eastern Reese next week, and then at the pay-per-view it'll be Eastern Reese and a surprise partner versus the Grizzled Young Vets. 38 overall for that segment. It's okay. It's not great. Again, these Doug Williams and Eastern Reese did most of the talking. Okay, moving on to the main show then. So we open up with Conor McGregor introducing all women competing in Notorious Pro Wrestling's title tournament. I could not fit every woman into this segment, so I just went with the most over ones. Don't hate me because Amy Alonzi is not on the screen. 88, Conor did all the talking here, and this was also a very good way to kind of get all of the women's gimmicks on the board so we can see what we're working it with. So let's work through this, shall we? Tessa Blanchard debuted her undeniable gimmick and got a great. Sweet. Viper debuted her Vixen of Violence gimmick and got a great. Sweet. Kaylee Ray has debuted her Filthy Generation gimmick and got a great. Sweet. Mikey Satomura debuted her Living Legend of Joshi gimmick and got very good. Sweet. Riho debuted her Super Babyface gimmick and got great. Sweet. Which, by the way, I was like, what can I make? What can I make Riho's gimmick? And I was like, she doesn't really have one other than just Super Babyface Joshi. So that's what she got. Killer Kelly debuted her Psycho Killer gimmick, got great. Sweet. Alpha Female debuted her Alpha Female gimmick and got great. Oh my god. We actually got a clean sweep. That's awesome. What do you say, like the rest of the ones who didn't appear in this segment absolutely bomb with all their gimmicks? Damn, dude, I'll take it. That's a really sick... Between all the gimmicks getting good ratings and between the actual rating overall for the segment, this is a fucking good angle, dude. Good job, ladies, and good job, Conor. So next we have Curtis Axel versus Grado. This comes after Curtis Axel insulted Grado last week. So in a bout that had great heat and decent wrestling, Grado defeated Curtis Axel with in 10:07 with a roll up. Now, I know. Why would I give Grado the win? But there's method to the madness. Firstly, it's a flash pin, so any momentum loss on Curtis Axel's behalf is very, very minimum. Secondly, this will tie in next week, which you guys maybe won't see, but this will tie into the overall storyline, which is Davey Boy Smith is going to come up to Curtis Axel and be like, what the hell was that? You lost to a joke. We have family legacy to think about, blah, blah, blah. And then that will lead to them pairing up. That kind of like, we are both wrestling royalty, let's be a tag team. Grado needs to win to let Davey Boy Smith get mad at Curtis Axel. Otherwise, it makes no sense. 36, it was going to be shit. Grado's in it. Like, we knew it was going to be bad. So 36. So 45 from Axel, which is very decent. And Grado got a 32. Moving on. So our very first match for the women's tournament. I didn't know which match to put on first, so I kind of went with the one that had like the most level playing field. It wasn't just going to be a straight up squash. So it was Killer Kelly versus Maki Ito. So in a decent match, Killer Kelly defeated Maki Ito in 14:56 with a super kick. Killer Kelly had 30 performance, which is not great, and Maki Ito had 37, which is okay. Maki Ito debuted her idol gimmick and got it great. That's nice. 35 overall. I was maybe hoping for something a bit more. I know this is the first round, so it's gonna not be the best. Like by the time we get to the finals, it should hopefully be a lot better. But it's okay. I'll take it. It's I would have liked a bit more, but it's not a bad start. Ace Austin versus Sonico was our main event. This comes off the heels of Sonico distracting Ace Austin in last week's main event and costing him the match. So in a superb match, Sonico defeated Ace Austin in, we'll say, 20 minutes by pinfall. 51, which is really good for two guys who are both very young, and I don't consider the main eventers just yet. 51 is really, it's great. Really good. Ace Austin seemed to carry the match, so Ace Austin got a 55 and Sonico got a 43. Then So the lights go out and Pentagon Jr. debuts and attacks Sonico. Overall, the rating of 37. I think I know why. So, Pentagon Jr. has debuted his Zero Fear. It's Zero Fear. I can't speak. Not going down that road. It's gotten initially very good. Yeah, so this is what I thought. So Pentagon Jr. was held back by the language barrier. So I knew this was going to be a problem. I think I did state it whenever I first signed Pentagon, which was the language barrier for me is probably going to stop him at the minute being a proper main eventer. I believe that Pentagon could probably be the one to take the title off of Chris Hero, but before I even think about putting him in that sort of position, I need to get him a mouthpiece. He needs a manager. The lack of not being able to speak English holds him back. There was two reasons to doing this angle then. So one, it debuted Pentagon, which we obviously need to do. He's been like sitting in catering now for over a month. And also on top of that then, I wanted to see just how much the language barrier would affect his performance. Pentagon has very high entertainment scores. I believe they're all green. And it's popped up with a 37. So it's not great. Especially when you consider the likes of Hero and Grado, whenever he has a good promo, all usually get about a 40 or 50 with their entertainment stuff. So before Pentagon even gets a sniff of the being in the title scene, he needs a manager. So overall we got a 56, which is good. A couple of yellows in there, which are disappointing, but the main event was solid, and that coupled with the strong promo from Conor McGregor really helped our popularity. So 56. In terms of news then, following the Wanted tapings, there really isn't anything, but what I do want to check is our most immediate rival, which is Over the Top, just to kind of compare what our ratings are to theirs in terms of shows. So we got a 56, just past there. Yeah, so I want to go to their screen and I want to see what they're kind of producing. So their last show, which was last month, got a 55, which is good. So overall, their shows do seem to be better than ours. In terms of the quality of the matches, like 62 was their main event, we got a 51 in ours. They don't do angles, or they have very limited angles by the looks of it. No, they just don't do angles at all. So I'm wondering, one, is that dropping their score down? Possibly, I don't know. Overall, I'm happy enough with how we are going so far. But that is it for this week. Unless anything drastic happens, I would say you guys will be back at the Excellence pay-per-view in 2 weeks' time. Just double check. Yep, so you guys will be back for the Excellence pay-per-view in 2 weeks' time. But that is only if there is no big breaking news stories or anything major happening in the meantime. At this point, I'll just be going on an autopilot so I can get all the stories and stuff where they need to be for the pay-per-view. And like I said before, I don't think there's enough happening on a week-to-week basis for us to come back week-to-week. But that is it then for this episode of Notorious Pro Wrestling. If you enjoyed it, please do leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you want to make sure you don't miss an episode. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I will see you at the pay-per-view and catch you next time on Bash Bros.